Uganda. On his own assessment, he's Uganda's lovable Big Daddy, a beaming father figure. But to his enemies, he's something very different. They call him tyrant, madman, murderer. During 6 years in power, Amin's never been far from the world's headlines. Occasionally, he's provoked laughter with his clownish antics. More frequently, he's raised diplomatic eyebrows with his unorthodox attitudes and declarations. But increasingly, the world's reaction has been a gasp of horror at the reports of his savagery to his own people. Amin's latest outrage, say his enemies, was the murder of Uganda's Anglican Archbishop and 2 cabinet ministers. The president says the 3 men died here, on the outskirts of Kampala, in a car accident. All 3 had been arrested on charges of rebellion, and according to the president, they were being moved to another part of the capital when they tried to escape by overpowering the driver. The car swerved out of control and crashed into another vehicle. The driver escaped serious injury, but the Archbishop and the 2 ministers were killed. This official version of events has met with almost total disbelief outside government circles. American President Jimmy Carter called them horrible murders that had disgusted the whole world.
From the vehicle, from the Range Rover, is it?
Several people who claim to have seen the Archbishop's body say it showed no sign of accidental damage, just 3 bullet holes. As the chorus of disbelief mounted, President Amin responded by allowing the press to meet the driver of the crashed car. He's Major Moses Okello, a Ugandan Army intelligence officer and a staunch supporter of the president. This interview took place 6 days after the accident, but the Major was still apparently in considerable pain and appeared confused about what had happened.
When I was driving, we were 4 in the car, 1 minister behind, and the Archbishop. I was with the Minister Oriama in front of the car. We passed through International Hotel. We crossed down. Before I reached the officer's mess, I was ambushed by Lieutenant Colonel Oriama. He caught the steering. And then here I lose the control of the car. When I lose the control of the car, I was trying to brake, I couldn't brake. I just had myself. The car just banged itself. I don't know where we banged ourselves. And then from there, I don't know who removed me out from the car until I was taken down to the military hospital. Up to now, I was removed from the military hospital. The second day, that's the time when I was asked by my doctor, did I know when I did the accident? I couldn't talk. Since that day until today, I don't know what is happening. Even now, I couldn't talk well. Even I can't take my meal well. It's what I can put to you clear, and I don't have strength at the moment.
So you didn't... Do you think it was extremely lucky that you have survived this accident so well? At least I hope you will survive it well. When 3 men apparently were killed in it.
Well, this God can prove it. I don't know myself, because God is the last person to answer for that question.
Are you making this statement to us entirely voluntarily?
What?
Are you talking to us entirely voluntarily?
I'm talking in my bottom of my heart.
In understanding quite well, but...
At least one foreign journalist has cast doubt on the Major's testimony by claiming that he'd been seen walking around the barracks quite unhurt a couple of days after the accident. We were unable to confirm this, but we were given the chance to interview Captain Christopher Ntalo, the military doctor who attended it.
Yesterday.
But now, what does that mean when you say discharge?
We were not, incidentally, offered any interview with the doctor who examined the 3 who died.
At the time that I received him in the military hospital VIP ward, I found Major Moses had pieces of glass covered all over. His shirt was covered with blood, his chest was covered with blood, and he was unconscious. He was not understanding. He was not responding to deep stimuli. and he did not have any cuts, but he had a bruise on his left knee, a bruise on his lower leg left, and he had a bruise on the back side of the shoulder, left side. And those were the main problems he had.
You said that his shirt was covered with blood,
Yes.
but he didn't actually have any cuts.
No,
Is that right?
no.
So what do you deduce from that?
From what I had been told from the history for people who had brought him, they told me that he had been in the car with some other people, and those had had very severe injuries and had been rushed to Mulago. And then from there I sensed that those with whom he had been in the car, I think he had got the blood from those people.
Did he have a skull injury, Major Moses?
A skull injury.
Yes.
Head. Was he injured in the head at all?
He had a closed head injury, but there was no cut.
No cut.
But this is the sort of injury which could produce concussion or something.
Yes,
like
that's
that.
right. In fact, he had concussion at the moment.
He has it now, still?
Yes, that's why he has remained in this mental instability up to now.
Funeral services for the dead men were due to be held in Kampala, but were suddenly cancelled by order of the government. There are conflicting stories about what happened to the bodies, but a memorial service for the Archbishop, Dr. Janani Lewum, was held in Nairobi, in neighbouring Kenya. Africa's Christian community was outraged by what it saw as cold-blooded murder, but the first reaction was grief for the leader they had lost.
To lay people, he brought up in a Christian tradition, where the clergy were in a special set-aside position. But Archbishop Lewum was a different person, a born leader, a humble man, generous to all, a person who could adjust up or down to everybody's position and station in life.
Nairobi is the headquarters for the All Africa Council of Churches, an organisation that is increasingly outspoken about Amin's conduct. After the tributes came a call to action.
It's clear that the situation in Uganda can only be changed by massive international actions in support of the courageous struggle of the churches and others in Uganda to stop what appears to be a continued wave of massacres. The Executive Committee, therefore, strongly condemns the inhuman behavior of those responsible for these killings, which took place within hours of President Amin's public promise that the accused would be brought to trial before sentencing.
The worldwide disapproval only made Amin more defiant. After President Carter's outburst, he threatened to seize all Americans in Uganda. And though he later backed down, he did claim the United States, Britain and Israel were involved in a plot to assassinate him. He was especially angry at the reaction of Britain's Dr. Donald Coggan, Archbishop of Canterbury.
Your Grace, what was your reaction when you heard the news of the Archbishop's death this morning?
It was a reaction of horror last night when I heard of his arrest, and of horror this morning when I heard of his death.
Was he the kind of man that would have been involved in a plot against President Amin?
No, not for a moment.
What kind of man was he?
He was a man, a dear friend of mine, a man of great courage, a man of peace, a man who would stand up for what he believed to be right together with his fellow bishops and other Christians, but not the kind of man who would get involved in arms. I don't believe it.
Then do you believe the report?
The army who were involved in this
In
plot.
Kampala,
Does this mean
President
that you're now
Amin claimed that Dr.
purging the
Coggan
army
himself
of members
had
of
been
those
involved
tribes?
in the
That
assassination
you
attempt?
accuse the Archbishop of Canterbury
We asked, did
of
he
being
really
involved
believe
in the
that
plot?
the head of the Anglican
Is that
Church
so?
would do such a thing?
Yes, but you see, he has never set a foot in Uganda. How can he judge for himself that Bishop was not caught with arms? How can he say that Bishop was killed, was shot with a 3 bullets? it was completely 2 bullets in chest and 1 bullet in mouth. And you know that the doctor who actually did post-mortem examinations is actually not my tribe. That doctor I think came from Bukit, where both of whom come from, and is a Christian. He's the one who did the post-mortem. He's completely not even my tribe, and even is not related to me, and is not my doctor. He's doctor for Uganda, you see. And that's why I found a very important person like Archbishop of Canterbury can only follow the story being made by the exiles from Nairobi or Dar es Salaam or Zambia, and then he considers that the report is correct, and then he put it is not correct. If he wants, he's welcome himself, or he can send his delegation from English church to come and investigate here, like you now come from England and Kenya. You are welcome. You have seen everything for yourself. We are not hiding everything to you.
If such a delegation were to come, what facilities would you be able to grant them? If, for example, they wanted to see the bodies, if they demanded that the bodies should be exhumed so that they could see them themselves, would you permit that?
Do you think that England has got a better doctor than Uganda? And the doctor who did post-mortem examination is trained in England and has been specialized in England. What is the use of removing somebody already buried from the grave outside? And what is the British has got with the internal affair of Uganda? British has no power here in Uganda.
Mr. President, do you believe the plot information that Britain and America would have supported an invasion attempt here or a coup attempt here, or do you regard it with some suspicion?
Even they went as far as saying that even they were planning for my assassination by British, Americans and Israelis. This is not from me, but from those people who have been arrested and show where arms, ammunition, grenades are from. And even they told me that through arrangement between Obote and Nyerere, President of Tanzania, arrangement was made to divert the Chinese arms which were meant for the liberation movement, arms for Rhodesia and South Africa and Southwest Africa, being given to Obote's guerrillas to invade Uganda. And this is the arms which were brought here, but it is not China.
As the affair gathered momentum, President Amin continued with his normal schedule of engagements. He played host to a conference of African, Caribbean and Pacific nations, and in a lengthy opening speech, he gave delegates a detailed account of the alleged accident and rejected any suggestion that he'd been responsible for the deaths. Widening his scope, he gave fatherly advice to his friends and poured scorn on his enemies. It was in many ways a typical Amin speech, apparently rambling, but in fact acutely tuned to his audience.
The continent of Africa knows me very well. I will never go backward. I will continue to go forward until I die on the records of God. This I wanted to inform you. I am not a person who is a coward. But to make it briefly to you is that I think the British government have made very many mistakes before. Even through this mistake, they cannot be now in position to solve their own problem in Britain. Now, to cover up the problem they have got in Britain, and they are pushing all their problems to be solved on Field Marshal Dr. Idi Amin Dada, PCPSOFC. I will just
Amin's been in charge of Uganda for 6 years, and every January he celebrates the coup in which he overthrew former President Milton Obote. Throughout his rule, the most important body of men in Uganda has been not Parliament or the civil service, but the military, especially those officers who belong to Amin's own tribe, the Kakwa. These have increased in numbers from a few hundred at the time of the coup to over 3,000 in today's army. Together with the greatly feared squads of Nubians from southern Sudan, they form the nucleus of the president's support and the means by which his every whim becomes law. As usual, this year's march past included students from Makerere University. According to some reports, last year's student riots resulted in a massacre. It's difficult now to assess the truth of the reports, but many similar atrocities have been laid at the president's door. It's thought that 3,000 people died in his first 2 years in power, and estimates of the total deaths to date range as high as 300,000. As long ago as 1974, the International Commission of Jurists, based in Geneva, reported that Uganda had experienced a total breakdown in the rule of law. We asked the president about this in an interview filmed last January.
I will say that report was completely nonsense, because was actually the government, and the people are very grateful to the government when I came to power. And if they talk about when I was invaded from Tanzania by the guerrilla, yes, very many invaders was actually crashed down by the members of the armed forces with the public and the women.
So you don't accept that there has ever been any real quantity of killing in Uganda other than on that occasion?
Yes.
Nobody has died without trial, in other words?
No. Everybody who died, like other country, they are properly tried and they are taken, and we don't have even political refugees in Uganda. If you to go even to our prisons, you will never find political refugees.
What sort of number of people have you had to execute since you came to
special those were tried by the military tribal union, who actually kidnapped people, killed the people. They accepted, they talked, it was recorded in televisions and radio,
but
they accepted.
Some former ministers have died, haven't they, in the past?
Those died during the invasion. During the invasion.
You said that last time, sir.
Behavior lost him many friends and money. 4 years ago, he told UN Secretary General Kurt Waldheim that Hitler had been right to treat the Jews as he did. As a result, America cancelled a $10 million loan. These cattle are British. Amin hopes to stock 70 ranches with them, each one managed by British farmers. But the scheme is being run with Saudi Arabian money. Official British assistance to Uganda, like most Western aid, is now at an end, and there are no diplomatic links with the former colonial power. Amin's lifestyle, like the man himself, is somewhat larger than life. 5 times married with over 30 children, he claims he's 50 to 100 years ahead of his time. He moves so fast, he says, some of his ministers have to drop out because they can't keep up. He's certainly come a long way since he was born into a poor peasant family somewhere near here in northwest Uganda 52 years ago. When the young Winston Churchill visited Uganda around the turn of the century, he called it the Pearl of Africa. Today, the country still has much to offer the tourist, but reports of Amin's bloodbaths have, in recent years, kept the visitors away. The most regular air traveller in Uganda today is probably Idi Amin himself. This was a recent visit to his own tribe, the Kakwa. In June, Amin plans to go visiting further afield, to London, the Commonwealth Prime Minister's Conference and Queen Elizabeth's Jubilee celebrations. He'll be nothing like as welcome there as he was here, and the trip could well bring international opposition against Amin to a head. Opposition will certainly be all the fiercer if current reports of massacres continue. Refugees from Uganda claim that Amin is persecuting two tribes in particular, the Acholi and the Langi, whom he suspects of continued loyalty to Obote. We spoke to the President about his future plans and about the fate of those who'd been arrested.
But those who involved into subversive activities, there is law, they will be dealt with according to the law of Uganda.
Mr. President, you made it plain that you intend still to go to London for the Commonwealth Conference, but if you really believe that the British government were behind an assassination plot against you, would this not lead to a pretty curious state of affairs? I mean, could your security be guaranteed in London?
I had a lot of quarrel with Dr. Kissinger and President Ford before he was out. I sent the official message to President Ford and Kissinger that I am coming to United States to attend United Nations. It is similar to Commonwealth Conference, and I was well received and even guided by the CIA Central Intelligence Agency until I came back. And all food, doctor, everything, motorcade, security was provided by CIA until I come. I am not a person who is afraid. And I will go to London with a delegation of 250, including the dancers from Heartbeat of Africa, will accompany me.
So you have no fears about your security in London?
I am not here, and I will go. I fear nobody except God. This I want to tell you. And I will go to London. And I have got very many friends whom I wanted to stay with and to talk with. And I've got very many members of the Commonwealth whom I think I will be having discussion with them.
Do you think there's any possibility, though, that some Commonwealth members might try to get you expelled from the Commonwealth?
They will never, they will not do it. Because I know very well right now, I am speaking, I have got a very strong delegation in United Nations Human Rights Commission. And I have got already a very strong support because this was...
Amin calls himself a pure son of Africa. His fellow Africans have called him something else, ranging from a black fascist to a disgrace to the black race. But no one has so far dared to intervene directly, and there seems little likelihood of Amin being removed as long as there are people who are prepared to dance to his tune.